Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have a brand new Mattel Jurassic World figure to take a look at. This is a Mega Destroyers figure, and quite clearly is the second variant of the Carcharodontosaurus. We previously have had a different version with a more Jurassic World evolution style paint scheme. This time, I don't know if this particular paint scheme is based off of anything specifically, but I will say I absolutely like this paint scheme far more than I liked the previous one. The previous one was alright, but this one is definitely more appealing to me. I've always been a fan of like oranges and stuff on dinosaurs. I don't know why. It's just always something that's been really appealing to the eye, if you ask me. So instantly, I am very much so drawn to this particular version. But as far as the box art goes, you can see it's pretty much your standard when it comes to the Dino Escape packaging. And then if we turn the box around, on the back here, we have a look at the Carcharodontosaurus itself, the action feature, as well as a sneak peek of the Pentaceratops, which will be up for review here on the channel very soon. So without further ado, let's pop this out of the box and take a look at it. So straight away we have our capture gear, which appears to be the exact same, of course, capture gear as last time. No difference at all when it comes to that. But then we also have our new variant of the Carcharodontosaurus, and again, looking really cool. I wasn't so sold on the sculpt the first time around, but I think I'm warming up to it more so with this particular paint scheme. I feel like this paint scheme really complements the sculpt and just in general looks a bit nicer than the previous one. I like the, majority of the darker tones of color with a little hint of flashiness with some lighter tones and stuff. And I feel like this one just generally looks more natural. Again, I'm not trying to trash talk the last paint scheme because there was a lot of people that were a huge fan of that particular version, and it definitely did look good. But in my personal opinion, my personal preference, this one certainly looks better than the previous one. So we're going to go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at it right now. So we have reviewed the sculpt in the past of this figure. We don't need to do that yet again. We need to basically look at what's new with this one over the previous version, and that would just be the paint scheme because action feature-wise, everything seems to be the same. But as far as what we have paint scheme-wise, you can see that the majority of the head is a very dark brown, but you can also see some really cool splotches of orange that appear right around the eye socket area. They start here and then kind of run back here behind the eye. Pretty big splotches down here under the eye. The eye itself is painted with a really nice yellowish tone and seems to potentially have a black pupil. I'm not 100% sure as it's so similar to the darker tone of color that we have for that area of the body, but it definitely looks like a black pupil if you ask me. Then here for the lower jaw, we have kind of like a light khaki type of a color. And then, of course, we can open the mouth if it wants me to look at it. Try to snap my fingers away, basically. But the teeth themselves are also painted really quite nicely, painted with an off-white, maybe almost bordering on a yellow. And then the tongue as well is really quite nicely done when it comes to the tone chosen, kind of a really dark tone of pink. I am really let down again by the tongue of the dinosaur though, because it seems as though it's just really not very textured when we've had so much progression when it comes to the overall detailing of the tongues of many Mattel figures, and so many of them have had such a much more textured appearance. The Carcharodontosaurus really doesn't. Like, it kind of backpedals back to older releases. Like, there is definitely some texturing to it, but just not as nice as what I'm used to from Mattel. You can see the upper side of the inside of the mouth though is painted also, which is something that Mattel tends not to do, but they have on this one, and it certainly looks good because of it. You can also see some of the orange starts to kind of splotch right here at the back of the head, and you can see it then designs all over the neck region. As we move down the course of the neck, you can see how the orange and brown kind of splotch and trade places back and forth, and I really like that the orange kind of starts out with like a really dark orange, like you can see up here and then up here, but then it transitions into a kind of a lighter tone right here, and that basically runs along the course of the entire body before tapering off in this area right here. And we have again how it starts with a darker tone, transitions to a lighter tone of an orange, and I really do like that coloration on the figure. And again, the splotchiness of the brown and everything looks really cool. I think it plays off of each other perfectly as far as the lighter and darker tones of color. And then once we get down here into the body, again, we transition from the brown to a blue, which is a really actually quite appealing looking blue, something that I feel like could potentially be natural on a dinosaur. You also have more of that kind of khaki-ish color here in the throat region, but it certainly is a slightly darker shade than what we see in the jaw. And you can see it's a slightly darker shade, but ends right here in the neck, like it doesn't go down into the chest or anything, which of course would have definitely been a little more appealing than what we have, but I mean, that's just the way Mattel seems to work sometimes. Unfortunately, there are no painted nails on either the hand claws or the toe claws, just none whatsoever. And then the brown itself, again, the orange stops right here, tapers off to just the brown, before the brown tapers off actually quite abruptly to maybe not so much of a taper, but just cuts off abruptly to the blue. And then we have nothing out here onto the tail other than the blue, which is a little bit of a downside. I really would have, as per usual, preferred some coloration out onto the tail, but even excluding that, I feel like because the coloration is like up here in the face, it starts out with the brown. It's cool that it kind of becomes more of all the blue here at the end. And because of the way that they've kind of evened out the colors, I feel like it still looks really good and honestly doesn't really take too much away from the figure as far as missing any type of alternate coloration out onto the tail. The only thing that really could have made this figure look a lot better, in my opinion, would have been paint on the nails. If you would have applied that, I feel like this figure certainly would have been a pretty big win, which it still is, honestly, but it would have been really, honestly, one of my favorite Mattel figures to come along in a long time as far as the coloration goes. And then maybe more of that lighter coloration here running along the underside also could have helped. There is the Jurassic Facts app code if you would like to add this to your collection. And actually, since we're here on the underside of the feet, you can see some of the speckling. We have kind of like a dark brown or a dark black speckling on this one. It's not very abundant. You could see it every so often, like you could see a little bit of it right there in the stomach region, but it's not like really, really visible like some Mattel figures are. Like sometimes you get them, they're just completely coated with those speckles, and this one, not so much. I mean, I can definitely see them pretty much all over the body here and there, but they're like very sporadic and definitely not something that is really overbearing on the figure. And you can also see the eye looks really good on this side, and that's a plus because sometimes Mattel does tend to have some quality control issues when it comes to the eye paint of their figures. And looking at the eye a little better, I definitely think that it's just the dark brown here of the body that is the pupil color, not a black, but it actually looks great because of the really dark tone of color. So again, that also looks good. So another beautiful version of the Carcharodontosaurus, my personal favorite as far as this figure goes, unquestionably, and has definitely warmed me up a lot more to the sculpt itself just with this new paint scheme. A really nice version of this figure. As far as articulation for our Carcharodontosaurus goes, you have pretty much your standard when it comes to the jaw working really nicely, and you also have articulation in the neck, which is actually part of the action feature. You have articulation in the arms, forward and back, and out away from the body as usual when it comes to a Mattel figure. The legs can also go forward and back, also out away from the body pretty far. And then, of course, tail articulation, which can go up, down, left, right, and swivel, which is something that's very common as well with the Mattel line. As far as the action feature goes, you've got a button here on the back, which provides us with a pretty cool chomping action feature, kind of like what you would expect when it comes to this dinosaur. And then when you apply your capture gear, actually, let's take it off and then put it back together on the dinosaur. There we go, and you can kind of make the dinosaur go a little bit crazy with the action feature button here, that chomping action feature to kind of break off and release the capture gear. Sometimes it doesn't work immediately. You have a little bit of a struggle, but that makes sense. The dinosaur should have to struggle to get out, but let's just do it here. There we go. So breaks out not too hard. It was pretty easy actually to break out of that, and that's another awesome thing about these figures is I love that we have capture gear with these. I hope Mattel continues to provide us with capture gear for a lot of their upcoming figures. I don't personally see it happening, but it would definitely be cool if we did, just because it's a really cool throwback to the Kenner line, if you ask me. As far as a size goes, for a length on our Carcharodontosaurus, you are looking at about the 14.5-inch range, or about the 36.5, closing in actually more like 37 centimeters, so pretty much 37 centimeters. And then for a height, if I can get it in a good spot to the top of the head, which you can't really see right now, you're looking at about 7 inches or around 18 centimeters. For a size comparison, here are our usual review comparison suspects with Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line in comparison to our brand new Mega Destroyers Carcharodontosaurus, and you can see that the size has not changed. If you can recall from the last release of this figure, again, this sports exactly the same sculpt, which means it is exactly the same size, which also means that it's a very impressive size because the Mega Destroyer figures usually are quite large, and this Carcharodontosaurus is definitely definitely no slouch in the size department. And then for a second comparison, here is the previous release with the brand new release. And looking at the two together, it's actually kind of funny because there is orange on the older one as well, and then orange on the newer one. But again, I just really like the tones of color used on the newer one. One upside to the previous one, though, is that you can see some of that brown runs out onto the tail, which certainly is, a little bit better than what we see over here. But I just feel like the coloration evens itself out by starting with the dark brown, ending with the blue coloration. So again, it's really actually kind of a toss-up, but as far as my personal preference goes, I definitely like the brand new bluer one a bit better. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Mega Destroyers Carcharodontosaurus is another really fun release from the Mattel line, but if you have the initial one and you don't really care so much for the paint on this one, it's definitely nothing that you absolutely need to pick up because it's basically just another repaint. There's no difference between the sculpt, there's no difference between the action feature. It is the exact same figure, even the capture gear is the exact same. If you are like me, you like having alternate color variants of your figures, it is certainly worth a pickup. My local Target had a ton of these when I was there, so hopefully everybody's Target should be pretty much loaded with them very soon. They actually had both variants of this, so that was pretty cool to see both of them in store at the same time. That's not something you often get to see, would be two different paint variants of the same figure, at least not in my local stores anyway. But this version here, the brand new version, again, just looks so good as far as the coloration goes. Ever since I had seen people receiving theirs, getting them and having in-hand pictures, I've been in love with this and have desperately wanted to get a hold of it because I really, really love the coloration applied to this one. The orangish tones and the way they play off of the darker browns and then the bluish coloration all just meshes together so nicely and so appealing, and definitely was something that was very high on my want list as far as the Mattel line goes. Again, I don't think that the sculpt looks honestly too Carcharodontosaurus-like, so I'm not a giant fan of the sculpt, but due to how nice the paint application of this newest one is, I feel like the sculpt is definitely growing on me, and then of course the addition of the capture gear instantly makes me want to love the figure because it has capture gear again, very Kenner-like as far as that goes, so anytime I can get that nostalgic Kenner Jurassic Park feel, I am 100% in, and this pretty much has everything that you would ask for when it comes to a Mattel figure. You've got some fun articulation, a really cool paint scheme, you've got a nice action feature, and then on top of that, capture gear, so it's definitely another fun release from Mattel if you are interested in picking it up. I believe you can actually order it on Target.com and then, of course, in store. So check the description. I will have a link to the listing on Target.com or head to your local Target. You may be able to just score it there. One way or another, pretty darn fun figure and definitely worth picking up. So make sure you do that. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.